I suppose 15 years ago when they came, they were chased out. So they didn't have to shake the dust off their feet and leave. That's why they're still here. Huh? Is that it? Oh, that's it. Okay. Our readings today are very interesting texts for our occasion. And you know the Lord always gives us nice, interesting texts for occasions. We have Timothy and Titus, the first bishops in the church. And they become bishops because the apostle lays hands on them. And by the laying on of hands and the calling down of the Holy Spirit, the apostolic succession is passed from the 12 to a wider group and now to Timothy and Titus, who are the first bishops. The Spirit led the early church to develop a way of transmitting the teaching of Jesus, not just to the generation who heard Jesus, but to the generation after, and the one after, and the one after. And that's the work of the Holy Spirit. That is the work of the Holy Spirit. The movement from the apostles to the bishops to the deacons, and then to the priests, that is the work of the Holy Spirit. I know we think of the work of the Holy Spirit more in terms of the individual, not so? The gifts that the Holy Spirit gives, not so? Or sanctification, or the sanctity that the Spirit brings. We don't often think of the way that the Holy Spirit and the church are really two parts of one reality. And that the Holy Spirit and the church together is how the message of Jesus is communicated from generation to generation. And that's why in the book of Revelations it will say, and the Spirit and the bride say, let all who are thirsty answer, come. And the bride is a church. The bride is a church. So in our reading today, as we move from the apostles to the bishops, the Spirit leads the church, or as we move from the apostles to the deacons, and eventually from the bishops to the priests, the Spirit leads the church. And the Spirit leading the church provides for the church everything that she will need to be faithful to the mission that has been entrusted into her hands. And that's why Paul is saying to Timothy, his spiritual son, fan into a flame the gifts that were given to you when hands were laid on you. Because the Spirit that we received wasn't a spirit of timidity, but a spirit of power and of love and self-control. Power, love, self-control. Three totally different things. It's a spirit of power, so we don't have to be afraid. We don't have to be afraid because we got the power. Yes, so we don't have to be afraid. The whole world might look like darkness, and the darkness might seem to be engulfing the entire planet. But we don't have to be afraid because the Spirit that was given to us is a spirit of power. It is a spirit of power. We are not helpless lambs being led to the slaughter. We have been given the spirit of power. But we've been given the spirit of love. Because that's how they will know that we are really His disciples. And it is through love that the witness that we have in this love for each other, that the world will be convinced that Jesus is the one that God sent. And that was His priestly prayer on the night before He died. Father, may they be one as we are one, that the world may believe that it was you who sent me. Our unity is a sign that allows the world to believe that Jesus is the Son of God. Our disunity is the greatest scandal that stops evangelization, that stops people believing, that makes it impossible for this contemporary world to believe that Jesus Christ is indeed Lord. Our disunity is the great scandal of our age. It is a great scandal. And when we enter into this unity, we are going against the Holy Spirit, because the Spirit is a spirit of love. And love is about unity. There's one commandment I give you, he says. Two? And if he had stopped there, I wouldn't mind. When he went on to as I, which is a love that is totally selfless, a love that is totally given. But the Spirit is the spirit of self-control. And usually when we think of the Holy Spirit, we think of people doing all kind of uncontrollable foolishness, not so? But the Spirit is a spirit of self-control, a spirit of discipline. And so with the Holy Spirit, yes, we will have power. And we are called to love, but we will have discipline and self-control, because we will regulate the way that our community works to witness to who Jesus really is. Fan into a flame the gifts that were given to you when hands were laid on you. The church moves from Jesus teaching these 12, and we know that these 12 were no gems, That wasn't no gems. If Jesus had hired a marketing HR firm to recruit, all of them fellas would have get left behind a long time. And if he did performance reviews, man, all of them would have gone. Every one of them would have get fired. There were no gems. Only one ends up at the cross to start with. They really weren't, you know. But this is who he entrusts the church to, and through the Holy Spirit, they hand it on to the next generation, and then to the next generation, because it is the Spirit working in the church that allows the church to be ready for the challenge of the age. In our gospel reading, we have that wonderful text where he sends the 72 out. You know, Jesus had his favorites, Don't think that Jesus was a very egalitarian kind of guy who, treated everybody the same. That's not true. He had Peter, James, and John. Those were his boys. And several times you see Peter, James, and John gather somewhere. He had 12. Those were the closest circle around him. He had a woman who would accompany him and provide for them out of their resources. That was a whole other group. Then he has the 72, and then he has the 5,000. And each group had a different relationship with Jesus, and each group were invited to participate in that relationship and to live out of that relationship and participate in his mission. The 3 were the 12 were the woman who accompanied, and the woman who accompanied were the 72. Each one was different, but each one was given the opportunity to participate as they were called into the kingdom. And if you think of the 12 as the apostles, the 72 is the laity. Because they weren't priests. They weren't religious. They weren't following him full time. They were the people who would have been involved in their lives, but hearing his call and part of his mission and being sent out into a village and into different places. But they weren't sent out alone. They were sent out 2 by 2 in community. They were sent out as community. Because you see, you can't love yourself and witness to the love. You see, when I'm by myself, I'm the most congenial person you'll ever meet. No, you don't get a nicer person than me by myself. You really don't? It's people is the problem, not me. When Pope John the 23rd prayed for a renewal of the church and the opening of the door to the Holy Spirit at the beginning of the Second Vatican Council, or when Pope Leo prayed at the turn of the century for a new outpouring of the Holy Spirit, these two popes did something in the Catholic Church that opened the Catholic Church to a whole new way. And the fruit of the outpouring of the Holy Spirit was the Second Vatican Council. And one of the key fruits of the council is a renewal of ecclesial life in the church. There are many ecclesial communities that have emerged around the time of or just after the Second Vatican Council. They're all over the world. And they're all a different form of people who are committed to Jesus Christ, committed to living the way that he has set out in the contemporary time that look different from the traditional ways that people lived as religious before. But even that the Spirit has transformed, because in the first 400 years it was just people living around their cities, and then Anthony left the city and Benedict formed the monastery, and then for the next 1500 years, practically, well, less than that, about 1200 years or so, you then had the monastery as a center of Christianity, and they became the center around which Europe was refounded. And the monastery became the university, the music school. It became the center of agriculture, the center of trade and commerce. It became the center of intellect and intellectual life. It became the hub of Europe. And then Francis and Dominic came, and they left their monasteries and went out to be mendicants, preaching and begging for their keep. And it's a whole new phase in religious life within the world. And then we have this new movement that happens at the end of the second, or during the Second Vatican Council, where the laity have been called to mission. The 72. They have been called to mission. Pope Benedict, in one of his last addresses, speaking to the clergy in the Diocese of Rome, uses a brand new word for the church. He says the laity are called to co-responsibility for the mission of the church. You see, before we use the word collaboration, the nice thing with collaboration, from my perspective, is if I decide on one given day that it's too difficult to collaborate with you, I don't. And you can't do nothing, because you collaborated with me, and if I choose not, that's the end of that. Co-responsibility says whether I want to collaborate or not, you have a responsibility for the mission that is yours and that you must take regardless of whether I want it or I don't want it. And it's a very different relationship. And in this age of the laity called to mission, the new ecclesial movements are a new manifestation of the Spirit that is leading the church, preparing the church for the time that we live in, and preparing the church for her mission. When Pope John Paul spoke about a new springtime in this new millennium, a big part of this new springtime is ecclesial movements that have taken root in the church and that have brought in a lot of energy and life and joy and hope and a sense of vigor to the church. And they've come with power, they've come with love, and let's hope they come with self-discipline too. When new ecclesial movements come to any country, any diocese, it's always a scary thing. How many of you heard wild and wonderful things about living water before they came? Huh? How many of you? Come on. Tell me the truth. Huh? Wild and wonderful things. Them people mad like that, you know. You don't know how mad them. I ain't sure that they're really Catholic, huh? I really ain't sure. But what the Spirit does, the Spirit does. And it's always so different from what existed before that the attention is always given. But how the church understands the role of the Spirit is that the Spirit gives both charism and hierarchy. Both are fruits of the Holy Spirit. Charism and hierarchy. Both. Because it is through the Holy Spirit that the development of the church down the ages to this time has taken place. And it is through the Holy Spirit that groups emerge with a charism, and that charism brings a gift to the church that allows the church to do things it couldn't do before. Both charism and hierarchy are manifestations of the Spirit. Both have to be seen as flowing from the same wonderful source, God's Holy Spirit. As we live in this age where the ecclesial communities have really been a part of a new movement, a new fervor, a new missionary zeal, where the laity who were taught to sit up, pay up, and shut up have all of a sudden waked up and are now involved and animated for the mission of the church. We now have a new manifestation of the Spirit in the calling forth of the laity for mission. And that's the heart of what we celebrate today. That's what we celebrate. That God, in His wisdom, through the guidance of the Holy Spirit, has allowed the Spirit to transform the church so that a new wave of missionary zeal and a new manifestation of living for Christ has emerged in our time. And it's brand new. It's really brand new. Because in the life of the church, anything short of a couple hundred years is very young. Really, really young. The Second Vatican Council, which happened just over 50 years ago, we haven't even understood it as yet. Because we now started to grapple with it. We now have the first Pope who was not at the council and has no reference of all the debates in the council, who has received the council like we have from outside of it, and having to then make that a reality in the church. So we celebrate today this new way, this new manifestation, this thing that the Spirit has done in transforming the church, not here in Barbados alone, but all over. Barbados had Madonna House, which was another ecclesial community that emerged out of this movement of the Holy Spirit. And Father Duffy, who brought charismatic renewal to Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean in his own wonderful and delightful way. And all of this is a manifestation of the Holy Spirit. So as we celebrate today, we will see people who would commit themselves to living for Christ in the three promises that they will make. And then their commitment entering into this whole new springtime and this new reality that God has given to us. And we have other people who will make covenant or make commitment as single people living in their own homes. And other people will make covenant to the community to pray daily, be a practicing member of the church, to be part of the ministry of the church, to be all the things that the covenant will say. And all of these are different ways that God has called His church. Just as He had the 3, the 12, the 72, the 5,000. So too the communities are structured in a similar way. With different concentric circles, each one called to live fully the commitment that they have made according to how God has called them. And the associates around the community. And no one is robbed of grace, and no one is favored with grace because of the call that they had, because each call is a manifestation of the Holy Spirit. So we celebrate today that for 15 years, Living Water Community has been a stream flowing in this land of Barbados. For 15 years, the witness of the community has touched many, many areas of life in Barbados. For 15 years, the ecclesial witness of the community has been a source of presence to the church, that has witnessed to the church another way of being church. For 15 years, the community has been involved in the life of the community, of the church in its deepest ways, contributing in all sorts of ways to the church. And for 15 years, the community has taken root and allowed that living water to flow in many different ways through the lives of its members, through the life of the church, in the society, to the poor, to ministry, to the media, in so many different ways. And so we celebrate today. That God, in His goodness, makes provision for His people today as He made provision for His people in the time of Timothy and Titus. The same God and the same Holy Spirit that made that provision is the same God and the same Holy Spirit that makes this provision. Because God is one. And what God does, He does well. And so today as we celebrate, we thank God. We also hear the words of Paul to Timothy. Fan into a flame the gift that God gave to you when hands were laid on you. For the spirit that you have received is not a spirit of timidity. It is a spirit of power, a spirit of love, a spirit of self-control. Living water is another word for the Holy Spirit. And living water is nothing if its members are not cultivating a relationship with the Holy Spirit, the third person of the Blessed Trinity, as a way of life and as a way of experiencing the world. And it is the depth of your giving yourself to God that allows the living water to flow as life-giving water. Not only here in Barbados or in Trinidad or in St. Lucia, but throughout the Caribbean and the world. Fan into a flame the gift that God has given to you when hands were laid on you and when you first made your commitment. Allow that spirit to burn brightly in your life. Amen.